Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Live TV Ratings Talk. 30 minutes or so where I talk to myself about the TV ratings. Let's go to the scoreboard. Did I say who I am? I'm Brandon Thurston, broadcasting live and on demand from Buffalo, New York. I've just gotten home, as you can tell. Dynamite. The ratings are in for AEW Dynamite last night. A pretty good rating. Over 1 million viewers. Over a .40 in the demo. 0.41. 1,043,000 viewers. That is the highest since February something. February 19th or something like that. For both total viewership and the demo. How did everybody do this week? Well, according to my math, according to the Brandon math, the Wrestlenomics meter, let's call it, Smackdown, pretty run-of-the-mill, normal, solid rating for Smackdown. Rampage and preemption. Because of college basketball tournament. Its lowest rating ever in that. Its lowest rating ever. It was preempted to an 11:48 start time. Talk more about Rampage later. And Smackdown. Raw, better than usual. A little bit better than usual rating for Raw. Pretty good. Dynamite, also a little bit better than usual. They look pretty similar on the meter there. NXT, an especially good rating, especially with younger viewers. And Impact, I believe it's second lowest rating ever on Access. New Japan, I believe the lowest rating the New Japan's ever done on Access. So there's the quick summary of what's happened in the last 7 days or so. And I have quarter hours. Just got quarter hours. Just hand jammed them into a spreadsheet. So we will go over those. Let's just do AEW Dynamite first. I suppose we can. It's a pretty down and to the right trend here. Starting off with a big number. 1.2 million viewers to start off. 1.2 million viewers. Ending with 919,000 viewers. So a huge start. I would guess that's highly influenced by the Big Bang Theory. Could be wrong. Probably right, though. Demo followed that pattern also, though. You can see the usual pattern. Last 4 weeks pattern for the demo is a pretty much straight line with some weakening towards the end. For total viewership, it's really strong at the beginning. Not this strong, though. I can only guess that there was a strong Big Bang Theory to provide a lead-in for Dynamite. Am I making too big a deal about the Big Bang Theory? Well, let's take a look at the comparison of the Big Bang Theory to what Dynamite does since the debut of Dynamite on TBS. And what we can see here is that the Big Bang Theory and total viewership, of course, with quarter one, there's a pretty strong relationship between quarter one and what the Big Bang Theory does in terms of total viewership. That's where the relationship is the strongest, between quarter one, the first 15 minutes of Dynamite, in total viewership, because the Big Bang Theory's audience is older than Dynamite's audience, so there's a greater... Big Bang Theory, as you can see, does higher total viewership than Dynamite basically ever does. 1.4, 1.5, 1.6 million viewers. I don't know what Big Bang Theory did last night, but 2 weeks ago, is that the most recent data I have? Well, for March 9th, it did 1.4 million viewers, and you can see the strongest correlation there between total viewership and quarter one, but some relationship between the whole program and what Big Bang Theory does. In the demo, maybe there's some correlation here, but it's quite a bit more random. So anyway, what segments? Who's a draw? Who's a draw? I bet Sheldon's the draw. Sheldon is a draw. But the leading quarter, of course, you just looked at the trend down and to the right. So the leading quarter was quarter one with CM Punk and Dax Harwood. I'm now looking at these quarters to try to understand them for the first time. So join me. What I would look for next is, was there any quarter that grew the audience? And that's why I have these columns here, these QTQ columns, the subject of a recent Python script that I've been working on. Was there a quarter that especially drew the audience, or lost the audience for that matter? But especially, I think there's more noise, not just trying to be nice. I think there's more noise in the negative growth than there is. If there's meaning to be had, I think it's in what grows or even retains the audience. So anyway, the quarter that has the strongest growth in total viewership is quarter 6, which consists of a post-match angle with Adam Page, Dustin Rhodes and Lance Archer video, ad break, and the Tay Conti and Sammy Guevara Dan Lambert live promo. There you go. Not a ton of growth in the demo here, but quarter 4, which consists of the Moxley Danielson post-match promo and the MJF live promo, did see some growth in the demo of 2%. That is the most sequential growth in the demo that this program had, 2%. So maybe some credit to MJF there. And I'm going to open up my YouTube workbook here too. We are in this period of time where the YouTube videos are not quite 24 hours old yet, especially in the case of AEW, because they don't put things up quite as quickly as WWE does. And I like to look at things after 24 hours to give everybody a fair shot. And we will look at YouTube videos as well. But if I go to this tab here, and if I refresh everything, if I refresh this table, it might update live here on the air, and it does. And the video that's leading from Dynamite last night is the video titled, in all caps, "Must See, Jeff Hardy Takes Flight in 8-Man Tornado Tag," which is almost 700,000 viewers in. Let's just look at the highlights real quick. Who has the most watched YouTube video that is a clip of AEW or an AEW program? It's Brock Lesnar attempts to cut off Roman Reigns from last Friday's Smackdown, which within 24 hours did 1.59 million viewers, now more like 2.5 million, far ahead of any other video. It's Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. I think there's more clear meaning to be gotten out of those YouTube views than quarter hours, which are just full of external factors, ad breaks, other people's segments, Big Bang Theory lead-ins, and things of that nature. But Dynamite, is there anything else? Let's look at the year-over-year table chart. The year-over-year chart for Dynamite, still above where it was in the year prior. Still heading towards that post-Wednesday Night War era, where we'll probably start to see the negative deltas there. That's in total viewership. This is in the demo. Similar story. And we could move on to, let's see. It did rank highly as number 3 behind the 2 NBA games. The Lakers and 76ers, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Brooklyn Nets. I think that's what the other one was. We are near the end of the month. And we could look at what I don't have on a slide right now. We could look at what is, let's see, okay. If we look at this, and if I make this bigger, we have what we've been seeing for a while now, which is Dynamite is the only program that's up year over year. Smackdown is almost up, and in fact, I spoke too soon. Smackdown in total viewership is up by 2% versus the March of last year. And now it's still got one more episode. I use a median here, so it's probably not going to change much. But TV overall The stand-in for that being the non-news cable originals that are in the top 50 from Showbiz Daily, excluding Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. That's up 10%, but down 7% in the demo. Anyway, SmackDown holding up quite well, both in terms of total viewership and in terms of the demo. Raw down substantially, more so in the demo than in total viewership. Dynamite, of course, up year over year because it's not going against NXT. At least that's a large part of it. NXT down year over year. And even I think NXT is down. Yes, NXT is finally down with people 18 to 34, despite that strong 18 to 34 audience that they had last week. Is it because of Dolph Ziggler? Dolph Ziggler is a draw for all the young people out there. I don't know. Impact down substantially, 35% in terms of total viewership year over year in the month of March, down 28% in the demo. So Impact, I don't think that this can be chalked up to cord cutting or anything like that. I think this probably represents some sort of genuine decline in interest in Impact Wrestling. And we could look into Google web search to test, to support or undermine that assertion. So there's that. We can look to the comparison between WWE and AEW. In women 18 to 34 this week, Dynamite actually had a larger audience. That is the smallest demo that wrestling draws that I track here. So it could just be a matter of volatility. We got a small sample. It's being extrapolated onto the total population. Small changes in that sample can result in large changes in your extrapolation. Is that the right way to explain it? Anyway, Dynamite 22% higher with women 18 to 34 this week than Raw. SmackDown, of course, leads everybody in everything. Ahead in that demo, SmackDown was by 14%. Usually, the demo, I think that Dynamite has had a larger audience in the same week than Raw. Most often are men 35 to 49. Raw 28% higher this week. In fact, Dynamite's margin with SmackDown was a little closer at 22% lead for SmackDown. SmackDown doubling Dynamite in total viewership. Raw up by a quarter in the demo. So the lead that has been slowly eroding over time for Raw and SmackDown over Dynamite, staying pretty stable. If anything, we see a little bit of growth here in the lead over Dynamite for SmackDown. What else? How's Raw doing? How did Raw do this week? We'll go into the quarter hours for Raw. Raw down year over year in the same week in total viewership and in the demo. In this March to WrestleMania, the path is that the path to WrestleMania. The quarter hours this week for Raw. The leading quarter was the AJ Styles versus Seth, well, not the match itself, but the AJ Styles and Seth Rollins live promo. Grew the audience 7% in terms of total viewership, 1.9 million viewers. The only quarter hour in that range of 1.9 million. 701,000 viewers in the demo. The RK Bro and Alpha Academy match also touched 700,000 viewers. But we saw some strong growth in that Styles and Rollins live promo of 9% in the demo, 7% in total viewership. It also included a Carmella and Zelina Vega backstage segment, probably much shorter than the live promo was, and a commercial break. Does this add up to what we see in the YouTube video views? In fact, I have a slide for this. I don't need to go to the spreadsheet here. But what we see at number one is the match itself. So not the live promo, which I don't know if there's even a video for. There is. I think that's number 7 right here with only 355,000 views in 24 hours. But the match did 900,000 in 24 hours and now over 1 million. And in fact is being outpaced at this point. And these all get uploaded probably within hours of each other. The cutoff of time at 24 hours is probably more useful when I'm looking at clips from different programs all in the same table, which is what we're doing over here in this spreadsheet. But so I would say really you've got at least 3 or 4 segments that did really strongly in YouTube views. That's the Styles and Seth Rollins match, Kevin Owens impersonating Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Miz unmasking Rey Mysterio, and yes, almost in a handicap match this time against Commander Aziz and Apollo Crews. So that's Raw. This is what the trend looks like for Raw, where we see this strong peak at the top of the hour, top going into the second hour at 9 o'clock, and then decline. So this total viewership pattern very, very much match what's normal for Raw. A stronger start, maybe people watching whatever the crime drama is that's on before Raw. Demo, following a similar pattern, following the normal pattern. It's interesting that we see this sort of this curve in the third hour. The third hour, as people may know, is often the least watched of the 3 hours of Raw, as it just gets later in the night. It's a long program. It's 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and there's a lot of attrition in the viewership at that point. But interestingly, what we see and what we see in this week too is we see this in total viewership also, and I guess it makes sense when you think about, well, it's a main event segment and there's something important usually happening in this last 15 minutes of the show, but we do see a curve here. So we do see some people tuning in towards the very end of the show, even as they somewhat rapidly tune out for Raw. And then the Rainbow brand, NXT 2.0, did a pretty good rating this week. For some reason, I put this slide here that shows the deltas versus the last 4 weeks using a median, and NXT up 40% in 18 to 34. Men in that demo up 53%. Women in that demo up 37%. So a huge tune-in apparently. Again, we're probably dealing with we certainly are dealing with a much smaller sample because the younger half of the demo just has a smaller audience for all of these programs versus the older half of the demo or the total viewership, which are larger audiences, therefore have larger samples, so they're probably less artificially volatile. Nonetheless, this is a pretty big delta in young viewership here for this program relative to the last 4 of NXT. Yeah. So we have quarter hours for NXT, and what happened here? Bobby Roode versus Braun Breaker at the top of the hour, top of the second hour, 9 o'clock. Bobby Roode and Braun Breaker, including the ad break. 717,000 viewers, 20% growth in total viewership, 191,000 in the demo, and 9% growth sequentially. People outside the demo, which is largely people over the age of 50, grew by 25% from the prior quarter. Prior quarter was an ad break, a Wendy Chu and Dakota Kai promo, and the beginning of the Bobby Roode versus Braun Breaker match. So this is a match that overlapped 2 quarters. And as I think I've said before, what we often see is when there's a match that's especially long, and maybe even in this case where it's overlapping 2 quarters, the conclusion of the match is often results in the audience building. So there's that. But the leader in the demo was the following quarter, which is the only quarter that had more than 200,000 viewers, although 2 other quarters, the beginning quarter, the first quarter, with the Solo Sikoa and Roderick Strong match, and the Overrun, which had the conclusion of the Dusty women's tag match between Io Shirai and Kaylee Ray against Dakota Kai and Wendy Chu. Those, as I finally get to what I was saying here, those had about 200,000 viewers in the demo. So just barely edging those 2 segments out, those 2 quarters out, I should say. A-Kid and Grayson Waller. I can't ever help but hear his name and hear Wade Barrett in my head. Walla. That match, an ad break, the Creed brothers versus the Grizzled Young Veterans. There's that. How does that compare to the YouTube views? Well, the main event, the Io Shirai, Kaylee Ray versus Dakota Kai and Wendy Chu Dusty Cup final, that is the leader. 209,000 video views. This was as of this morning, by the way. So these have certainly collected some more views since then. But that is the leader. And then Braun Breaker versus Bobby Roode is number 2. Note that these are, just as the viewership is much lower on television, linear television, YouTube views, which are global and are not a YouTube video view is not the same as a TV viewer. Those are importantly different measurements. But we do see, what performs strongly in the quarter hours. Well, Braun Breaker and Bobby Roode. In the demo, the main event, the tag final did well. The overrun often does, and this was right in line with what the composite trend is in the demo. And in fact, this total audience grew so much at the top of the hour that we're well above the trend here throughout the rest of the program. So there's that. And these 2 segments are substantially higher, nearly doubling anything else on this show. And we do have, I've realized my script is not accounting yet for the NXT Level Up program. I don't know if I want to exclude those in this list or not, but we do have all 16. Does anything in the NXT Level Up do better than the NXT Access? Joe Gacy continues to pester Greco Anthony. Was pretty low. The NXT Level Up. What's the biggest NXT Level Up segment? I think it's this one, right? Valentina Feroz versus Lash Legend, which did 70,000 views. Again, to think about where the max is here, we saw that Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns did 1.5 million after 24 hours. So there's that. NXT now in the range of where it was a year ago in the same weeks in terms of total viewership. In the demo, doing a little bit better than it was, at least in this low week here. I'm not sure what happened there last year, but we have some pretty strong ratings comparisons coming up with the timing of Wrestlemania. And if you remember last year, they did the 2-night takeover, with night 1 being on the USA Network and night 2 being on Peacock. So those are the comparisons that are coming up. So that's NXT. These are the logos of SmackDown and Rampage. And by the way, if you want to do a super chat, I will entertain your super chat. I will browse the chat to make sure is everyone happy? Everyone getting along? I think so. Seems okay. Okay. So I think the health of the stream is doing all right. Okay. SmackDown and Rampage. I think it might be excluding preemptions out of this for Rampage. But anyway, we'll talk about SmackDown first. SmackDown, look at this. Right in line. Everybody wants to talk about Dynamite. Dynamite's got great ratings. It's doing well. It's doing very well year over year. But look at this. SmackDown. I can't say the same thing to this extent about Raw. Raw's a little bit down year over year, but SmackDown right in line where it was, in an environment where there's cord cutting and increasing entertainment options. There you go. It's slightly up year over year, the same week, for what looks to be second, maybe third consecutive week. The green line is higher than the transparent blue line. What about the demo? There's some overlap there. Last week, it was lower than the same week of the prior year, but this week, slightly higher. So we're comparing WWE now, Raw and SmackDown. We're comparing those programs to what was happening last year, the Thunderdome, right? Because we're not going to be in a live touring year-over-year comparison until July, middle of July. So still being compared to the Thunderdome era. And you can see the return to touring called out right there with the high rating in the middle of the year. SmackDown quarter hours. There they are. So, the leading quarter for SmackDown was the 9 o'clock top of the hour. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley versus Naomi and Sasha Banks through an ad break. Almost 2.3 million viewers. 2 million. 295,805 in the demo. That is not the leader in the demo. That's the second most watched program in the demo, but it also had a lot of viewership gain sequentially, up 14% and 13% in the demo. The most watched program in the demo kind of makes sense, is what came next. This is why quarter hours are hard to analyze, because it's in this context where it's going through this linear live broadcast show. But anyway, the number 2 quarter in terms of total viewership, the number 1 quarter in the demo, is what happened next, the post-match angle with Shayna Baszler, Natalya, Carmella, Zelina Vega, a Johnny Knoxville promo, an ad break, and then probably the longest part of this quarter hour, the Pat McAfee and Austin Theory live promo angle, or whatever they did there. Sustained the viewership in total, grew the viewership in the demo by 6%, and thus it is the leader in the demo. And your main event of a Charlotte and Ronda Rousey live promo did grow the audience, but lost the demo by 1%. So there's that. And how does that compare? We don't have, actually, by the way, let's point this out. I am working on the 4-week composite trend, because this is probably like the 3rd week in a row of that I've gotten SmackDown quarter hours. So maybe next week we will have a dashed line to start to study, what's the normal pattern of SmackDown. But anyway, the most watched segment on YouTube is by far, and the most watched segment of any wrestling show this week. And in fact, is there anything that's not a segment from a weekly show that tops the list? No. We've got a Roman Reigns WrestleMania workout that is number 2 after 24 hours. And in terms of, is this morning? I don't know. We could probably refresh this if I can find which one is actually part of the pivot table. Because this is as of noon, and now before our eyes, this will hopefully update and tell us how many views these videos have got right now. Maybe. There we go. As of 5 o'clock, the Lesnar and Reigns clip from SmackDown has 2.5 million views. Something has disappeared, and yeah, it's got nearly twice as much as the next most watched video. And did that happened on SmackDown, right? It did. It was the opening segment of SmackDown, probably, right? Exposed myself again as not a SmackDown viewer. Although I did scan through it to get these quarter hours, to get these labels done. So that was, how does that look? I guess it's the third most. Yeah, the first quarter is the third most watched quarter. In the demo, though, it's one of the least watched quarters. So they're an example of how YouTube video views and quarter hours do not agree. So not always a perfect system. I tend to side with the YouTube video in terms of telling me which segment had the most interest, whatever that means. So there's SmackDown. Rampage, a strange Rampage. First of all, of course, it was preempted, pushed to an 11:48 p.m. start. This is still a 1-hour program, still a 60-minute program. However, these quarter hours, if you count them, you can see them on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. It's a 60-minute program, and we are looking at the quarter hours, yet there are 5 data points. What we have here is, and I had much confusion when I was trying to put this data together. We do not have 4 15-minute segments. Oh no. We have one 12-minute segment, a 15-minute segment, another 15-minute segment, a third 15-minute segment, and then a 3-minute segment. So that's what we're looking at here. So this final quarter here, where the audience does grow, both in the demo and in total viewership for the final minutes of the Keith Lee and Max Caster match, that is a 3-minute segment difference of time that we're looking at there. So this follows still, nonetheless, I would say it basically followed the normal Rampage pattern, even being on nearly 2 hours later than usual. The most watched quarter, of course, was the first quarter. It had a lead in from a college basketball game. Not as big of an audience that I thought there might be, though. 468,000 viewers to start off with, at 1.8 in the demo. Quickly tuned out from the Darby Allin versus the Butcher match. And then, is there anything to gain to get out of this? A 7% increase in those last minutes, 12% increase in the demo. I don't know there's much to read out of this. The Rampage YouTube videos, we have Sting, Darby, and the Hardys issue a challenge to the EFO. That is by far the biggest video, and that is coming out of Rampage. That is something that happened on Rampage. Maybe that was it was a post-match angle. That adds up. Okay. And that was the most watched segment, but it was the most watched segment. If you scrambled these, I'm sure that Q1 would be the most watched quarter of this chart, regardless of what the content was. I'm pretty sure. So there's that. 32 minutes have gone by. And I don't know. I think that's really it. There is an article on Wrestlenomics.com breaking down, we've talked about this last week, we talked about this on Sunday, breaking down wrestling television viewership by race. You can check that out on Wrestlenomics.com. It's up for free. I've turned the ads off even for the whole website. It was an experiment. So Wrestlenomics.com is ad-free again. I think that's all. You can, there is the, you can thumbs up. Let's see if there's, before I sign off, make sure I'm not missing any. No, I'm not. Okay. So you can hit thumbs up. That helps people find this. Find live TV ratings talk. Find Wrestlenomics Radio that we do here every Sunday. The post-wrestling Discord. The game continues. Predict the Dynamite demo. Big Phil Combo, who basically operates the game, suspiciously is number one. I merely hit a button that causes a script to update the information. But Big Phil Combo, number one, ranked number one behind, or ahead of, Chris Leone. I am number 3. Neil Flanagan, Chris Elliott, Joycey, Kamui 79, Eric, Faulty Rob, and Funk Soul Jamie. That is the top 10. That is updated as of this afternoon. Let's see. Yeah. Patreon.com/Wrestlenomics. You get my weekly, it's not weekly, what am I thinking? Daily TV ratings reports every weekday. There is a ratings report. We have now how many TV shows? Raw, NXT, Dynamite, Impact, New Japan, Smackdown, Rampage. That's like 7 shows. We've got quarter hours lately for most of them. You get access to the big spreadsheet. You get access to the audio of this program, which will be up shortly. And I'll talk to everybody next time. Bye.